This is Flavor Profile, a series where we look at ingredients that are similar to each other, in some cases even interchangeable. We discuss what makes them similar, but more importantly, where they're distinct. This is a flavor profile on Brassica heads. Brassicas are a very wide-ranging family, but a large number of them will form into tight, bulbing heads. Today we're going to cover some of the most common and popular head in brassicas: cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and Napa cabbage. Let's break it down. Cabbage is a bulbing head of leaves of the species Brassica oleracea, which means, interestingly enough, that this is more closely related to broccoli than it is to Napa cabbage. Cabbage comes in several colors and varietals, although most commonly at the grocery store you're going to find smooth leaf varietals in either green or reddish purple. But you have to be careful when cooking it because cabbage is incredibly high in glucosinolates, which means it is exceptionally bitter, and if you cook it too long, will have an incredibly pungent smell and bad taste. To fight that bitter taste, cabbage is often served raw, like in coleslaw, or pickled or fermented, like in sauerkraut. Brussels sprouts look like tiny heads of cabbage on a stalk, although usually at the grocery store you'll buy them in individual little heads in bags. Brussels sprouts are a funny vegetable because historically we think of them as being very smelly and yucky and not good to eat. But nowadays they're having a resurgence in popularity. You'll find these all the time fried on restaurant menus. So are they just better tasting now? Actually, yes. In the 1990s, agricultural scientists were able to isolate and breed out the bitter trait from Brussels sprouts, which means modern Brussels sprouts are significantly less bitter than they were historically. That being said, you really should not overcook Brussels sprouts because when overcooked, they'll develop that pungent, stinky, sulfury smell and taste. Brussels sprouts are best served sliced up with the outer leaves removed and either roasted or fried. Napa cabbage is also known as Chinese cabbage, and although it looks similar to these other heads, is not of the same species. This is from Brassica rapa, which is the same species as bok choy and rapeseed, which is pretty well known for its oil. Unlike other cabbage heads, Chinese cabbage is long and relatively loose, and it has a much more delicate flavor. It's not as high in glucosinolates. Because of its loose packed structure, you need to be a little more careful when washing Napa cabbage compared to other cabbages. You also don't have to be as careful about the bitterness. In Chinese culture, Napa cabbage is associated with prosperity and wealth. There, it's often served fermented, and in Korean cuisine, it's often served in kimchi. So where do each of these stand on their own, and where can you substitute them for one another? If you want to serve cabbage raw in a salad, I would stick with either a head of cabbage or a Napa cabbage. While all of these vegetables can handle a certain level of char, Brussels sprouts are especially good when slightly singed or fried. This has been a flavor profile on Brassica heads. And until next time, I'm Kara, and I can cook.